This is just a recording for myself. Let's go.
And has been visiting our planet for a long time, mining our resources and manipulating DNA the way that the cuneiform tablets of Mesopotamia clearly claim the reptilian Anunnaki have been doing for at least 450,000 years. The fact is, most all ancient cultures tell a similar tale of sky gods descending, interacting with humanity in different ways, and bringing knowledge of civilization. In addition to these stories of ancient alien visitations, there are also a lot of unexplained physical evidences to help corroborate them. In 1938, in the Himalayas, archaeologists discovered skeletons of a race of humanoid beings that had spindly little bodies and large overdeveloped heads, and a strange record-like disc that had a continuous spiraling line of characters in a mysterious hieroglyphic script. In 1965, 716 more grooved stone discs were uncovered in the same caves and were dated between 10 and 12,000 years old. When a professor of archaeology at Beijing University broke the code and started to decipher the strange script on the disc, the Peking Academy of Prehistory forbade him to publish his findings. The discs told the story of a space probe by the inhabitants of another planet who crash-landed on the Himalayan mountains. The stone discs go on to say how the Dropa were unable to repair their disabled spacecraft and could not return to their home planet, and so were stranded on the planet Earth and took refuge in the cave.
The way that could have happened is they got hit by an electromagnetic weapon. It changed the polarity of their spaceship, and as a consequence, they cannot turn it back. They did not know how, most likely.
Caves of the mountains. On the walls of the caves, archaeologists found crude illustrations of beings wearing helmets, the rising sun, the moon, unidentifiable stars, and the earth, all joined together by lines of pea-sized dots. The cave drawings have been dated back to around 12,000 years. Many other unexplainable humanoid physical remains have been discovered in other places around the world, like the Sealand skull, whose discovery on the Danish island of Sealand in 2007 did not make headlines and instead remained largely ignored by science until 2010. Other unbelievable examples are the elongated humanoid skulls that have been found in various places in South America and are displayed in a small museum in Peru. They are from a race of giants over 2.6 meters tall, and they are not just deformed or misshapen, they are naturally formed like an egg and do not possess the three plates that we as Homo sapiens have. That shows that these are a completely different humanoid species that modern science refuses to acknowledge existed on or visited Earth in the remote past. Other surviving physical evidence of ancient alien visitation includes a multitude of ancient cave paintings, rock drawings, petroglyphs, and numerous ancient artifacts from around the globe that go back many thousands of years and appear to depict UFOs or flying saucers and aliens that generally resemble what are known today as typical alien greys. UFO imagery was also used heavily in religious and other art during the Renaissance period, hinting that the artists knew something about our true ancient history. A flying saucer can even be found clearly depicted on a French coin from 1680 with a Latin inscription translated to mean, "It is here at an opportune time." Even more modern evidence can be found in the multitude of amazingly complex crop formations, many with significant symbolic and occult meanings from DNA spirals to sacred geometry, and there are more and more appearing every year. There are two that I find most intriguing, the first of which I will call the Arecibo Message and the Chilbolton Answer. Arecibo is the place in Puerto Rico where the world's largest radio telescope was constructed, and on November 16, 1974, it was used by SETI to transmit an encoded message comprised of several sections, each depicting a particular aspect of our civilization to the heavens. This signal was aimed towards the globular star cluster M13, some 25,000 light years away and consisting of some 300,000 stars in the constellation of Hercules. On Tuesday, the 21st of August 2001, the answer came back in two crop formations reported near Chilbolton Radio Telescope in Hampshire, UK. One was a humanoid face, and the other looked almost identical to the Arecibo message, only with a few changes and alterations to the parts of the information. The second intriguing crop formation is of an alien face in a binary data sequence. It was discovered west of Winchester in the UK in August of 2002. When it is decoded, we get the message, "Beware the bearers of false gifts and their broken promises. Much pain, but still time. There is good out there. We oppose deception." Besides this immense amount of physical evidence, there are also some extremely intriguing accounts that boggle the mind and defy logic for the skeptic, like the Aurora, Texas UFO crash. In 1897, 6 to 7 years before the Wright brothers made their first flight, an alien ship was reported to have crashed into a wooden windmill, and the citizens of Aurora found the alien who was injured and picked him up and tried to nurse him while hiding him in a barn. When he died, they buried him in the cemetery, and for years his gravestone was marked with an odd-shaped rock with a spaceship on it until it was stolen. Debris from the spacecraft was put in a well on the farm and has since been sealed off, but in 1973, John Schessler recovered a piece of metal from around the alleged crash site. This piece of metal had been molten at one point in time because it had molded to the shape of the rock it adhered to, and was determined by metallurgists that in 1897 this metal just simply did not exist on Earth. It was identified as a kind of pure aluminum that was impossible to make in 1897 and would still be difficult to do today. Another intriguing account came in 1961 when Betty and Barney Hill were abducted while driving home from vacation. Afterwards, neither could remember exactly what had happened during their encounter, and they could not account for 2 hours of time. On the morning after the incident, they noticed the vehicle had strange blotches that were soon found to be magnetized where the paint had been removed and revealing bare metal. Barney had scuff marks on his shoes as if he'd been dragged and an extremely painful back. Betty began to have recurring nightmares of creatures that were intent on kidnapping her and Barney. Eventually, they were referred to a psychiatrist who recommended that they undergo regression hypnosis. They were regressed separately, yet gave similar accounts in remarkable details. The most interesting part was when she asked where they were from and was shown a 3D map of a star system. Then, while under hypnosis, Betty reproduced a detailed sketch of the star system Zeta Reticuli. It meant nothing at the time because it was a full 6 years before astronomers even discovered it. Another interesting phenomenon associated with UFOs is the fact that abductees around the world are finding alien devices implanted in their bodies. Disturbing and invasive medical procedures have always been reported in cases of abduction. In recent years, dozens of abductees have come forward with something else. They are telling UFO researchers that their abduction memories have been followed up with the discovery of unknown objects embedded in their flesh. Jeff Harvey is one such case. Jeff and his father had a UFO encounter in 1967 when Jeff was 8. In 2001, Jeff got real sick from heavy metal poisoning, which caused him to lose a ton of weight and get extremely ill. And upon examination, there was something strange found buried in his upper thigh that was just a little bigger than a BB. The VA said it was consistent with shrapnel, but he had never been in combat or battle, so he had no reason why it could be there. When he had it surgically removed and analyzed, they actually detected radio frequency, and it was drawn up to the skin when a magnet was applied. A Gauss meter showed a very strong electromagnetic field of 10 milligauss. A radio frequency detector was used, and it was found to be emitting a radio frequency of over 59 gigahertz, which is in the range used by radio astronomers to detect radio frequency coming in from outer space. It also showed to be emitting a signal at almost 36 megahertz, which falls under the VHF band, which is used for satellite radio and terrestrial communication used by the government as well as consumers. The implant was also strange in that Jeff's tissue actually attached to it and embraced the object instead of rejecting it, and once it was removed, the radio frequency stopped being emitted from it. Contrary to popular accounts in the media and many articles on UFO sightings and encounters, the phenomenon is quite frequently reported by prominent, highly trained, and respected sources, including professionals in many different fields. This includes U.S. military and intelligence figures like J. Edgar Hoover, the director of the FBI, and Admiral Roscoe Hillenkotter, the first director of the CIA, as well as prominent political figures including Presidents Truman, Ford, Reagan, and Carter, and many respected scientists like Dr. Margaret Mead, the world-renowned anthropologist, and Dr. Herman Oberth, the father of modern rocketry. In addition to these eminent figures, equally impressive military, intelligence, and political figures have come forward with information and evidence about UFO reality in many different countries. In fact, there is scarcely a place on Earth that UFOs have not been witnessed and reported by numerous credible, reliable, and trained men and women. Also, contrary to popular belief, UFO reports are not limited to rural areas either. The phenomenon has been
Kurt Russell is not in the spaceships, but near the area where this happened, and at that time, most likely that's why he got chosen to do Guardians of the Galaxy. Most likely.
Reported in major metropolitan areas across the globe. UFOs have also been reported quite frequently over civilian and military nuclear facilities,